Zenless Zone Zero is almost here, and in today's video, I'm pretty much going to be telling you guys which characters to focus on depending on what 5-star you get. Now, I know a lot of you are reroll, so this will be pretty much like, I guess, telling you what team to build or giving you an idea of what team to build. But a lot of you, I guess you guys can't have a lot of use, but some of y'all aren't going to be rerolling like me because I'm lazy and I don't want to do it. But if you spend money, that's a whole different story. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about all the characters, the 5-star characters, and what characters you should be looking to build early on because resources are expensive and you want to know. First up, we have Soldier 11. If you happen to get Soldier 11 by any means necessary, Lucy is going to be a character that you want to focus on the most. Lucy, I'm going to mention a few more times in this video because personally, Lucy is one of the best supports in the game. Now, she is one of the brand new characters that we did get available to us, but Lucy as a character has some insane potential. Not only does she have the little pig guys, the bang boo pigs or whatever, that I'm speculating to basically work as minions. And a minion system is basically where if you have these particular things on the field, the minions, they act on their own without Lucy needing to be the active driver on the field. So what this allows you to do is potentially have, maybe they'll have some buffs attached to them, or maybe they'll have special mechanics or move sets attached to them. Maybe when you do an EX special move, they'll do a mini version of her move. Who knows? We'll know more of that whenever we get Lucy and she's available to us. But as of right now, that's how that works. I do know Lucy is going to be a support character, and being a support character, Lucy has the potential to offer some crazy buffs to the entire team based off CBT 3 and when they changed a lot of the characters to function as supports instead of just Nicole being the only support like she was in CBT 2. I know Rina's support from CBT 3 was crazy good, having full team-wide penetration buffs. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lucy also had something pretty strong or just as strong in a sense. Maybe she's going to give you like a 50% crit damage buff or over 100% attack buff. Maybe she gives you a straight up damage buff for everybody on the team. Who knows? But I do know that's going to be a very good thing for her to have. And with them having the faction, they changed it. So now it's like faction, attack type, and your attribute or one or the other. When you share one of those with the team, you also get buffs on that. So with that in mind, my next recommendation for Soldier 11 would be Piper. I think Lucy and Soldier 11 are already a very strong combo as it is, giving you somewhat of a maximum damage output. But Piper is essentially going to lock in that you're not only going to be able to get Lucy's benefit from having the same element, Soldier 11's benefit from having the same element, and Piper from also being able to trigger her faction, right? Her faction ability. You're also going to get Piper's faction ability because Lucy and Piper are in the same faction. So you're pretty much triggering everyone's core passive so that you get a mega buff on the entire team for Soldier 11 to take the most advantage of. Now, if you don't like this team and you don't want to use Piper for whatever reason, even though she has crazy good anomaly stacking, she's very good at switch tech, you can now use Ben until you get Koleda. The reason I say Ben until you get Koleda is because a Koleda is pretty much going to be like the Dazer to be using for your fire comps, but Ben works just as good because Ben is super strong. Ben's very defensive. In fact, he's the only defensive character in the game, and he actually provides a full team shield, right? And then with this team shield, if you happen to share elements or the faction, that team shield gives you a crit boost, at least from what we know in CBT 3. And in this game, again, from CBT 3, they changed the values. So crit rate in particular is really hard to come by in this game. Rolling into crit rate is just, it's so bad compared to any other Hoyo game that I've played so far. So anything that gives you free crit rate for free, like a team buff, a weapon, a gear set, you definitely want to look into putting that on the team. Next up, we have Lycaon. 185% aim for Ellen if you get Lycaon. If you happen to roll Lycaon from your 40 standard banner, you need to put everything into trying to get Ellen and her weapon as best as you can. Ellen is by far the best DPS in the game as of right now, especially for a casual player who doesn't want to do any type of high execution or skill expression type checks. Lycaon is one of, if not the best days in the game. Like the stunners in the game, I personally believe Lycaon is the best days comboer in the game. He's got the best days combos. They're fast, they're easy, super simple, doesn't have to do too much about it. And you have different variations, and it doesn't feel like you're doing the same 4 button presses every single time. But let's just say that you don't have access to get Ellen, or you're saving up for Zhu Yuan, and you know, you don't want to reroll either. All of those are fine. If you don't get Ellen, or you don't want to go for Ellen, Corrin is your next best option for a DPS character. The reason I say Corrin is because, just like we talked about with Lucy and Piper, Lycaon and Corrin share the Victorian Maid House faction, so they're going to be able to trigger each other's buffs, and you're going to be able to get Lycaon's buff as well as Corrin's buff. Now, Corrin in particular, being a DPS character, her buff, unless they changed it, her buff is basically going to give her like 30 or 40% extra damage to stunned enemies. Lycaon being the fastest character in the game to stun an enemy, that means you're pretty much going to be having like almost permanent, like semi-permanent 40-ish% damage increase for Corrin for the entire duration of when you're playing this team. And to round this off, you can use Salcoco. I use Salcoco on this team because of the ice bonus that you're going to be getting from Salcoco and Lycaon. You're now going to be triggering Salcoco's bonus because her core passive has the element or faction. Lycaon is ice, you're going to be triggering that. And with her passive, she actually has, I think it's ice shred, like 10% ice shred or something like that, or maybe it's a 10% ice damage boost. One of the two things. I think it's a damage boost. Yeah, 10% ice damage boost is what she's going to be able to give you. So she's going to be able to boost Lycaon's damage whenever he's doing stun. You're also going to be able to get freeze, and something that I didn't talk about with Soldier 11 and Piper being on the team, but I did mention the anomaly stacking. The reason that I'm telling you guys to not build full trios, right? There's something that I'm going to briefly talk about here that I'll go over in another video about, like, you know, free to play, watch out for this kind of stuff. I know that building teams with all 3 elements seems like the best play, but in this game, and it's very similar to Honkai Impact 3rd, there are enemies that are just flat out immune or will be immune to elements, and there are enemies that resist elements. What I think is basically you're gonna want to have 2 main team members share the same element, and then you're gonna have 1 off element that also benefits the team. It doesn't matter what it is, right? The reason I'm saying this is because, 1, everything that I just mentioned previously about the element teams and like having 1 or 2 different elements, and then 2, disorder. The way that this works is something that they added in CBT3, which you can think of like an elemental reaction. Basically, if you do 1 element stacking and then you stack another elemental reaction on top of that, or an element, I guess it is a reaction, right? If you do burn and then you put physical on top of the burn, something called disorder will trigger. It's like this big white bubble, a big white number, and it pops up. Now with disorder, every element has its own disorder property. So that is where the elements reaction will come in from. So if you do burn and then you apply assault on top of that, then the disorder property will first trigger a big damage instance of disorder, and then it will trigger, like, let's say physical has bleed, right? So then it'll say, oh, well, how many stacks of assault did you have before you triggered the disorder? I had 10. Okay, we're gonna do 10 remaining slashes of bleed on the enemy as damage. That's how that works. With that in mind now, and me explaining that, this is why I'm saying or recommending some of the characters that I am for team building. In the Lycaon case with the ice and with physical, it also gives you the assault as well as freeze, which are 2 of, if not the strongest element in the game as of right now, from my own opinion and my own experience. Next is going to be Koleda. Now, Koleda is a cool character because, as I mentioned before, Lycaon has the highest days in the game to my experience, to my understanding, to my testing, and what I've been looking at as far as days combos go. Koleda is right after him. Where what I can do with Lycaon, being able to daze an enemy in 1 combo, or if it's an elite, it takes 2. Koleda takes double that. So if it takes me 2 combos to daze a boss, then it would take me 4 combos with Koleda to daze that boss compared to Lycaon, which is why I'm saying he's the best. And whatever, but Koleda's easy. That doesn't mean that she's bad. I don't want anyone to think that, right? Like, if I say something's the best, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden the other options are bad. It just means that I value this option more because of my fighting game background and what I'm able to do. You as a player, especially as a casual player, and if you're playing on mobile, you might not value that, right? Because you don't have the capability of doing things that might require execution. You want something that's very simple and easy, and Koleda gives you that. She has a 4 basic hit combo that you can add variations to by literally just pressing skill in between the 2nd or 4th hit, and you get a gigaton worth of daze damage. Super good. If you happen to pull Koleda, Ben should be the one that you prioritize the most in terms of building. He is free because they have a unique combo together, which essentially increases both of their daze properties, the daze multiplier that they would do, the damage, it jumps up from like 300% to 690%. Like it's a ridiculous damage multiplier that they get, and they're the only ones in the game that have this type of team combo together. But I'm hoping that we get a lot more characters in the future that have these team combos together, or they implement something with factions so that we have that, because I think it's really cool. And I don't like using Koleda and Ben together personally, but I would love to use Koleda with somebody else. Regardless, after that, you would have Lucy. Lucy offers you some insane damage support and set play. Set play being the whole minion thing that I was talking about before, and then the insane damage support being that she's a new fire support character. You could choose to not use Lucy in this case and then go for something like Nicole or Rina, but I'm trying to make it so that like if you only got 1 5-star at the beginning of the game, what are you picking? Like what should you be doing? So I don't want to mention Rina here. The only reason I mention it for Lycaon is because Ellen is a limited banner character, and you can control whether or not you get a 5-star standard and then a limited banner character, because everyone will be able to do that based on the number of pools they're giving us in the game. After that, we have Nekomata, baby girl. If you happen to get Nekomata, Piper is the #1 character you should be aiming to build and put on the team. There is no debating this. Piper has an insane anomaly stacking, which doubles down with Nekomata. Nekomata loves when enemies are triggered with assault. If the enemy is inflicted with assault or has been assaulted, Nekomata's damage increases. Nekomata has some insanely fast assault buildup and damage buildup on her own. She's got quick attacks, very strong character. She's able to zip across the screen instantly with some pretty broken vanish tech that I was able to discover in the game. And it's a wonderful thing, right? Nekomata's a great character. If you happen to get her, don't feel let down by that. She's easily my favorite DPS in the game next to Ellen. Piper offers a lot on that team. It's also going to be able to trigger the double physical so that they're both going to be able to get that buff from that. After that, I would say go for Ambi. Ambi is going to allow you to have a stunner on your team to give you daze combos, as well as switch tech opportunities. And because you have Nekomata and they're both a part of the Cunning Hairs, Ambi's passive is now going to trigger so that you don't need to have an electric member on the team. And instead you trigger all 3 of them from Nekomata and Ambi, from Nekomata and Piper, and from Piper and Nekomata. Now, if you happen to die a lot and you don't really care about Ambi's passive, go ahead and put Ben on the team. Ben's going to provide you a shield. Piper and Nekomata are pretty squishy characters. For the most part, they can get one-tapped. And so it's a sacrifice, right? Like you have a lot of high damage, high speed, but you have low HP or low defenses. Piper doesn't have high speed, but I'm assuming she has a little bit of damage and things like that. Regardless, Ben saves that. After Nekomata, we've got Rina. If you happen to get Rina, don't feel bad. Rina is one of, if not the best support in the game. If you get Rina, you're going to want to focus on building Ben so that you have some days build up or some days opportunities, some stun combos, if you will, because he does have pretty strong days multipliers, and he's going to give you a crit rate increase if you put Anton on the team because they're sharing a faction. So Anton being on the team is now going to trigger Rina's passive, giving you double electric. So now you're getting both of their passives activated guaranteed. And then you're also going to be able to get Ben's passive guaranteed because Anton's on the team. Anton is going to be your DPS on this team, having a easy high electric damage. And he's got basically what I consider, or what's called an install. An install is where a character pretty much transform, or they go into a transformative state, and then they have increased anything, speed, attack, damage, whatever. Anton's able to do that with his skill by holding his skill and then essentially revving it up. It puts him in an install where all of his EX meter is being consumed so that he has increased speed, damage, properties, everything like that. And he can hold attacks or hold his skills to get even further damage. Now with this team in particular, not only do you have fire, but you have electric. Shock Anomaly is fantastic as a disorder trigger. I'm not going to go around telling you that Ben is great at applying fire because I really just don't think he is. However, if for whatever reason you decided to build Ben based around stacking up Anomaly just enough that you could get disorder triggers, then it could work in your favor because you could apply burn first, and then since you have 2 electric characters, you can now just quickly apply shock thanks to the fact Rina just has thunderclouds that rain down on enemies, and then Anton sits there and drills somebody in their guts and then they get shot. It's pretty nasty. After that, we're going to stick with the electric team and we're going into Grace. If you happen to get Grace, I'd love me some Grace, bro. Anton is going to be your easy high damage character for Grace. Same thing that I said about Rina applies to Anton, but in Anton's case, now you're triggering Anton and Grace because they're in the same faction. You're going to be able to trigger that. Now, who else is in the same faction as them? Ben, exactly. So you're going to put Ben. That's crazy how these factions work, right? You're going to put Ben on the team. Ben's going to be able to do the same thing I talked about before, building up your days combo, helping you with stun, all those kind of things. And because they're all a part of the same faction, you're triggering everybody's stuff. Their core passive, Ben's core passive is going to be able to give crit rate to the entire team. Everyone can take advantage of this.
The reason I say everyone is because Grace is a high mobility character, which means she essentially never has to stop playing the game. She's always moving, she's always doing damage, and she's always chucking grenades. You're not playing the character right if you're not chucking grenades in between attacks. She has a uninterruptible basic attack string, meaning that you can do something like basic grenade, basic grenade, basic grenade, dodge grenade, basic grenade, dodge grenade. Like I could go on and on and on. But point being is that if you do it, like it's a high execution thing, if you do it, it's very much an endless string of electrocuting the enemy. And because she kind of self crowd controls, she's able to apply a lot of CC so that Anton doesn't have to go around chasing enemies. Very good stuff. If in the event you just don't like Ben though, and you don't need him now because you have 2 of the faction members and 2 electrics, you could just use Nicole. Nicole is going to automatically give you that CC that you could be looking for with Grace, so that you don't have to worry about doing that for Anton. And Nicole is going to be able to give you a little bit of some damage boost here or there, but she won't be able to activate her core passive because no one on the team is going to be able to benefit from that.
Now we're going from the standard 5-star characters to the limited banner characters, which is only 2. As of right now, we're going to have Ellen, and then after Ellen, we're going to have Zhu Yuan. And so I'll briefly talk about each of these characters so that you get a little bit of an understanding of what they do and what they're looking for. Starting off with Ellen, because she is first. Ellen, 100% find yourself a Lycaon. If you somehow pull Ellen, especially if it's an early banner pull, you need to prioritize getting Lycaon. Lycaon is going to be the best comboer in the game for your daze combos. He's going to help you stun enemies significantly faster, and he's going to increase the daze multiplier for anyone on the team. Now, because Lycaon is the one doing the stunning, what this essentially does is it takes, whenever you stun an enemy, you see the daze multiplier, it'll say like 100% times whatever, right? Or 150% on top of their HP. That's 150% more damage they're taking from whatever it is that you're doing. That's your big windows to do all of your big dick crazy combos, the things that you'll see on like Pride Winner, like this is your max damage combo. Those are the type of things that you want to see and do in those moments. When you get a daze, you've earned that. As we say in fighting games, I've earned this stun combo. I'm working on the stun. I got the stun combo. This is my most damage possible from this stun combo. I'm gonna finish it off with my ultimate or my burst, anything like that. Now, what Lycaon's gonna do for Ellen or for the team in general is he's going to increase the daze multiplier. So that 150 is gonna jump up to like 185 or 200%, whatever it is they changed it to. So that's gonna be huge for a number of teams that have Lycaon as their stunner. That's something that no other daze comboer in the game has. Koleda doesn't have it, Ambi doesn't have it, and if I'm not mistaken, that might be the only 2 that I can think of that are dazers in the game. Now they have daze damage increasing, right? Like they'll increase the amount of daze they do, but Lycaon increases the amount of daze he does by like 60-something%, and he increases the daze multiplier. So this is why I'm saying he's such a great character. Now, if you don't have Lycaon, you could substitute Ambi for Lycaon, but again, you're not getting all the stuff that I just talked about. And if you do use Ambi, now you have to use Salcoco because she is the only other ice character in the game that's going to allow Ellen to trigger her core passive, being able to get her a little bit more of those crit rate boost. Regardless of which second character you focus on, being Ambi and then Ellen. So I guess in that case, it would be Ambi, Ellen, and then Salcoco, and you would be done with that. If you happen to get Lycaon though, now instead of full sending ice team, so like it would look like Ambi, Lycaon, and then Salcoco, you can actually remove Salcoco and use Lucy instead. Salcoco is going to be giving you basically some CC control with the ice tornado she has, insane freeze potential, which is why I like Salcoco, but she's also going to be giving you I think a 10% ice damage boost, as well as an extra like 1,000 attack or something like that. It's something in her core passive to where whenever she uses Fly the Banner, and then she passes it off to the next character, the next character coming in gets like an 1,000 plus 1,000 attack or plus 500 attack, depending on how many banners you used during Fly the Banner. Really cool stuff. Lucy, on the other hand, again, fantastic support from what we can see, overall damage boost, and some good set play. So this is going to be something that I definitely have to play around with, whether or not I like Lucy or whether or not I like Salcoco on the team. But I think having the freeze on top of the fire element is really good. And again, if the minion system works the way that I'm assuming it does, based on other fighting game history, the minions might have elemental properties, sharing that with Lucy. So if Lucy's fire and Ellen and Lycaon are ice, you're now able to do some crazy disorders to where you can do ice and fire, or fire and ice, kind of like Vape from Genshin or Melt from Genshin. Last but not least, we have Zhu Yuan. Now, if you're going for Zhu Yuan,
skip Ellen. For obvious reasons, I should not have to say why you need it. Now, if you can steal both of them, like you can throw a 10 pull or like 30 pulls or less at the Ellen banner and get her, and then you can do that again for Zhu Yuan, don't let me stop you from getting the character. Zhu Yuan is going to be the second or first best DPS currently in the game, alongside Ellen. Now, again, there's some testing that I got to do. As of right now, I personally believe Zhu Yuan is stronger for the better player. I don't mean that in like a disrespectful manner. What I'm saying by that is that Ellen is much more casual friendly, where you get away with mashing. Zhu Yuan is a much more calculated type of player, or a calculated type of character. Ellen can be calculated, but because of the way her kit works, you don't have to do it, at least not as much as you would for Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan, you have to be much more aware and pay attention. That in mind, Zhu Yuan does not have anyone for her faction right now, being the police specs or police ops or whatever their faction is called, basically the police. They don't have that. No one's in the game right now, which forces you by default to use Nicole. If you go for Zhu Yuan, you are 100% forced to use Nicole. You do not have a choice. If you don't do that, not only will you not be getting the ether damage boost from Nicole that she pretty much has permanently when you have another person that triggers her core passive, but you also won't be getting Zhu Yuan's buff. Now, Zhu Yuan's is important. I think that's how you pronounce her name, is Zhu Yuan. I apologize if I pronounced that and completely wrong this entire video, but Zhu Yuan's buff, or her core passive, is a crit rate increase of 30%. That is huge for a character like that, where she's doing a multitude of attacks. Her attacks are like 5, 10, 15. Every time she attacks, it's a multi-hit. So being able to do that, having that much raw crit rate for free, basically, and then you build into the rest of it. Maybe her weapon will give her crit rate. Maybe you'll have a crit rate gear set on her that increases that higher towards 70%. That'll be huge for a character like this. So you don't want to give that up just because you don't want to use Nicole. And lastly, to finish off that team, you would want someone with days. Now, again, I'm not really thinking about other 5 stars, but the same way that I did it for Ellen, I would do it for Zhu Yuan. If you had a choice between who you're going to pick out of your days combos, it would either be Lycaon or Koleda. If you can't get either of those characters, Ambi works great in place of the both of those two, but she won't do it as good. And I want to make that very clear. Ambi is going to excel at being able to give you days combos, switch tech opportunities, and she's going to be able to build up your disorder or shock faster than Koleda or Lycaon would build up ice or fire. But that's it. That's the roundup of every single character that's a standard or just every 5-star character in the game that you should know about and what you're looking for to build them. Hopefully this gave you all the information you needed in order to understand exactly what you're looking for and how to do it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me down below. I'm here all day pretty much answering whatever you guys have about Zenless Zone Zero, who does what, how do I do this, who to build into what, what's the best whatever. I don't know. Like I really feel like there isn't so much a best something per se in the game, like a best gear set or anything like that, but I do think there will be best builds for whatever it is that you're looking for. Right now, I feel like Zenless has a very good opportunity to be able to pretty much make the player have a lot more skill expression or character expression. And just to briefly explain what I mean by that, in fighting games, players, you can usually tell a player based on how they play a character. For instance, I play Cammy. My Cammy is different than my boy Kev's Cammy. His Cammy is different than Punk the God's Cammy, right? Punk's Cammy is different than any other player's Cammy, right? We can imitate these things, but there's something about the way a player plays a character that makes them different. In Zenless, I've already proven this to be true. The way that I play Ellen, completely different than how other people play Ellen. The way that I play Zhu Yuan, completely different than how anyone that does calcs plays this character, right? And I've, again, tested this and done all other kinds of things or whatever. It just really comes down to player expression. I think Zenless has the best opportunity to be able to do that, and I'm really excited for that. So hopefully we see more of that. I did want to put a lot of focus on the characters though, and building the team. Not so much like you need this character. I said that only for like a few characters, but I really wanted to put a focus on like team building aspect behind it, because the core passive, the faction, the element, matching those, and then trying to get all three is pretty difficult, right? I could have told you, instead of using South Coco on the Lycan team, use Grace, and that wouldn't have worked. But then I could have told you use Rina, and you still would have gotten the buffs, but you wouldn't have gotten the what is it? You would not have gotten anything beneficial to Lycan
or to Rina, because neither of them are doing damage. Like, there's no one on that team doing damage except Corrin. And then Corrin's like, I want all the damage here. What's going on? However, you know what? Now that I say that, Rina probably was the worst example, because Rina just kind of nasty. She has like a 30-something% penetration ratio for the entire team. It's ridiculous. Regardless, I've been here long enough. I apologize for holding y'all up. I just wanted to give you as much information as possible. Like the video, comment, subscribe, because we're trying to grow this channel so that I can do a lot more Zenless stuff on this channel, get it monetized, all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, hopefully that happens. Anyway, I can't say my usual outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Smell you later.